Welcome to Dragon Talk. How's it going? I'm Greg Tito, and I am joined by Shelly Moo.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
We also have two fantabulous guests in the studio right now, Mr. Jeremy Crawford.
Yay!
Hi, everyone. And Kate Irwin. Woo! How's it going, everybody?
Good. Doing well.
You working hard on that thing?
Yes, the thing we're here to talk about.
Exactly.
But not the other things that we can't talk about.
Right.
Because that's really what you're working on, let's be honest.
I have no idea what I can and can't talk about, so if you ask me a question, I'll answer it.
Uh-oh.
So now it's our fault. Now it's all going to happen.
So now we have to be super careful what we ask you.
Be very precise.
Where do babies come from? No, we can't talk about that. Damn it.
I've been asked that recently.
We haven't announced that product yet.
D&D and daddies and mommies.
Yes.
So the product we're talking about is, of course, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. We announced
kind of
that.
like a baby. It's like your baby.
Yeah.
And it's not even born yet. Correct, right?
Yeah.
It has not been
Still in
sent
the
to the
gestation
printer.
period.
Yeah, we are in the final week and a half on the book.
That's insane.
Yeah,
So
so
it's like the middle trimester.
so Kate and I literally basically walked up from our desks where we were working on this very book to come here and talk about it.
That's awesome. Great. Well, we will dive in super deep during our interview for you guys. So I'm thinking of all the questions I have to ask you that won't lead to some spoilage of all things. But we do have a couple other announcements before we get to that. Kate Welch is in the building. She is here.
It's our first day.
That's right. Kate, how do you feel about having another Kate?
I love it and I hate it because everybody is saying her name and my back is sore, but I turn around and I look and I'm like, oh.
It's like two disappointments in one.
They don't want me and my back.
Oh, Kate, we always want you.
That's true.
Wow.
At least now when you guys are dealing with the ending of the book and the process.
It would be a bad time not to have me.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know how some people are like first last name people? Like they've just always been like, I feel like Kate Welch is going to be a Kate Welch. Like you're never really going to be like, Kate, that feels weird. She might just be a Kate Welch. I don't know. Were you a Greg Tito? I feel like
I kind of, for some reason, I was. People always gravitated to calling me Tito rather than Greg.
That's because we used to have another Greg in the department.
It's true. That's the excuse. But it was even when in elementary school when there were no other Gregs to be seen.
Really?
People still call me Tito.
Not a common name?
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't in where I grew up in Connecticut. But yeah, no, it was a thing, and all the Chris's that we have in the department, we've called a few, but there's still you have to keep doing the last name afterwards.
Yeah.
The Chris Lindsays and the Chris Perkinses.
Yeah, because Perkins is usually just Perkins.
Yeah, right, exactly. But we don't call Lindsay as often because that's
I
even more
call
confusing.
He's Chris.
I call him Chris Lindsay a lot.
You do call him, you do the both names.
Yeah.
What's his middle name? That's what we got to start calling him. Topher.
Christopher Lindsay.
Christopher.
I think you're wrong.
I did know a Chris who went by Topher.
Yes, I've known a few Tophers in my time, or Toffer. I think there was a Toff in some college, and I was like, I'm never calling you that. And he's like, okay, that's fair.
I'm just trying it out. Just trying to see if it works.
But we basically have to get Kate in here next time and actually ask her what she would like to be referred to, and then we'll ignore all those recommendations.
What if she says, call me Kate Irwin?
Dun, dun, dun.
That would be a twist.
That would be a stinger. It's true. So we're learning her up on all the D&D processes.
Yes.
What do you
I've seen it been happening.
How do you start here? How do you start?
Sat down with her and I just talked, and then we went to the computer and said, and here are all the many files to read. So.
Okay. So it's more just like reading a lot.
Yes.
Listening and reading.
Yep.
Exactly. And I think she's listening right now.
Hi, Kate
and so we will have to have a meeting where we talk about what we should refer to you as. And then, of course, this is the download for her. What's going on with Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So that's pretty exciting that we're actually.
This is for Kate.
This is for Kate. This isn't even for those of you watching or listening.
Yeah.
This is for Kate.
I mean, are we recording this?
Oh, we're recording
We should
this.
record
That's
this,
what
'cause
these
this
are
could be a
for.
good podcast.
This makes sense now. All right. But we do have some other fun stuff going on in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. So Idol of Champions of the Forgotten Realms is still going with their live midwinter event is happening right now. It ends today on February 5th. So those of you listening, it's already gone, but you would have been able to unlock and gear up Regis from the Crystal Shard. He's one of the companions from Bob's book. So that's pretty exciting. Go check that out. It's on... what's the pre-alpha? I've done this so many times that I'm forgetting what to do. Early access. That's what it's called on Steam, when you can get into the game before it's officially out there. But it's all the bells and whistles of Idle Champions are available. You can send out your adventurers on quests. They collect all the loot all in real time, and it's a super fun game, even if you don't have tons of time to devote to it. Our friends at Beamdog are making the Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition. I've heard tell that there's an announcement date coming out there soon. I don't know it quite yet, but they're working really hard with the community. Neverwinter Nights was a big time game in the early aughts. It is still being used to this day. In fact, when we spoke to Hawk Robinson, he was like, "Oh yeah, I have a module that I use to have the themes and things that he wants to get across in his adventures." And I'm told all of those modules that have been created for Neverwinter Nights will work in the Enhanced Edition, which is pretty cool. In addition to improving all the UI and making it usable on... Ooh, I know, Shelley. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
There's a lot of fun stuff going on there with like permanent servers and things that you can do in Neverwinter Nights. So I'm kind of excited about it. You can also get Twitch subscriptions here. I know they're live. We offer tons of emotes for those of you who subscribe at the $4.99 level. You'll get to watch all of us do this thing every Monday afternoon. But then we have Mike Merles' show on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Mike Merles' Happy Fun Hour. I think he's doing these subclasses that he is creating as pertains to people's donations to Extra Life.
Right there.
In front of you. You get to see him design something in real time, which I think is super fascinating.
I think so too.
You don't get that a lot here on the Twitches where real D&D people are doing their stuff in front of you. So that's kind of exciting. Again, that's tomorrow. I think he's got his second episode of that. So go check that out. Then Dragon Plus is at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I think Mike is on the hook for that as well. This is maybe why he is not on this podcast, but I think it more has to do with that football contest that happened
He's angry.
beforehand.
He's angry and sad.
He's angry and sad inside, so he didn't want to put that face forward. But Bart will have to talk football with him during Dragon Plus. I'm sure the two of them will have a lot to talk about, in addition to what's going on with Atomophos, which we'll get to here. And then I'll do D&D news before we have another episode of Dice Camera Action, which has been a lot of fun stuff has been happening in that show. And I don't want to spoil it too, but like it's really insane.
Crazy things happening.
There really are. Yeah, I don't even want to. It seems like every time Chris walks from Raven there, he's like, "I just made everyone cry." Everyone's
and he's proud of them.
And but in a very dramatic way that you can only do with people who trust and role play like they do. It's been really fascinating watching. So if you haven't been paying attention, please do watch that 4 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays here on the Twitch channel. Twitch.tv/DND for those of you listening at home. And we have our friends from Tales from Candlekeep, Tomb of Annihilation. They've got lots of DLC packs available now for that game. That is a board game. Just like your sweatshirt says, it is a board game that has been translated into the digital medium. So all the fun stuff that the WizKids version of Tomb of Annihilation, the board game, it's in the adventure system. You can play through different scenarios. I think there's 29 different scenarios you can play in the digital version, which is way more than the 15 or so that are in the actual box of the board game. You can do different difficulties for each one of them. So it's really a strategic, tactical, fun way to interact with the D&D brand. It's if you're into that strategy level of things, I definitely suggest checking out Tales from Candlekeep because it will go a little bit cray-cray in your brain. You got to make some hard choices, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Do it every day.
So many hard choices to make. And of course, D&D Beyond is always available out there for you making your character. I made our character for our lunchtime campaign, and it looked like everybody around the table basically had done the same. Some of them had them on their laptop. Some people had printed them out and done it, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is so much fun."
You didn't make the right character, though.
Are you mad about the fact that I'm
role playing right now.
I understand. Drunky Two Shoes. Well, you role played basically that the fact that the reason we weren't playing with the Tabaxi anymore is because he passed away.
I killed you.
Daryl Two Shoes is no longer apparently. I like that that's canon.
Death plague.
Yeah, it was a dangerous adventure. It was not going to come through unscathed.
The thing is that in that game, I had that in the back of my mind that you had, or Daryl had the death
Daryl
plague.
Two Shoes, yeah.
You didn't know, but my character knew, and that's why I was so desperate. I was going to just be this crazy Tabaxi and Cholt trying to save her brother. And you were just going to be like, come on, drunkie, just keep it together. And I'm like, you don't understand, because I never wanted to tell you that I was trying to save you.
I understand now.
So now that we're in a new game and you didn't bring back that character, I just assume he's dead.
All right,
I'm still crazy.
Now we need to go like back in time and be like, what happened? See where we ended up.
But there's things
session.
about
A flashback session, exactly.
There's things about his new character that remind my character of her brother, and that's why she decided to follow him and his adventuring group around.
See, this all makes sense. Lots of fun stuff happening there. But one cool thing about doing D&D Beyond, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can playtest or help us playtest Unearthed Arcana material in D&D Beyond.
That's right.
So right now there is there's the Druid of the Spores, the Circle of the Spores.
Ooh.
And also the Brute for the Fighter, and also the School of Invention for the Wizard.
Oh, very cool. Those were ones that I wanted to try out. So now you can in D&D
Yes.
Beyond pretty easily. It's unofficial material. It's not official. It's not accepted in D&D Adventurers League play. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, phew. So yeah, but I like that it's all, and there's also the Blood Hunter class that's available that Matt Mercer from Critical Role made is also available there. Also not official, but you can basically play with it and enjoy it. And it's really exciting what's going on there. And there's actually a video with you guys talking about Tome Foes up on D&D Beyond's YouTube page right now. So in addition to this wonderful amount of interview we're going to talk about the Tome Foes, you can go check it out at D&D Beyond's YouTube page too. So
Making the rounds.
shout out to Todd Kennerik for making those videos happen. He's a good interviewer. Potentially even better than Shelley.
Oh, really?
Potentially.
Pretty
Yeah,
low bar.
we'll figure it out in the awards season that's coming up when we do the D&D podcast Oscars.
Oh my! Are we in the same category? Are
I
we
don't
up
think
against
so.
each other?
I don't think so. I'm in the original category, and you're in the I don't know what you would be in.
I don't know. I feel like we might be in the same one.
Shit.
I don't know.
This is
I
not
think
good.
I might be on your coattails.
All right, then fine. Everyone in the academy should vote for Shelley. She's way more professional than I am. All right, so let's throw it to a fun little lore segment before we get in to talk to Jeremy and Kate about what's in Tome of Foes. Luckily, I thought ahead, and this lore is actually about Mordenkainen. So that all of
Wow.
you can know about
Been sitting on that one.
the fantastic wizard from the city of Greyhawk and learn way more than just that little tidbit in this lore segment right now. So bing and bong it up there. Burm.
Wow.
How are you guys doing in chat? Anybody having fun yet? We did that all without talking to the chat. That was like, again, we're like professionals somehow. I don't know how that happened.
Or is that just rude?
It's just we weren't actually talking to the audience that time. This is so hard because we have to like split between talking to the audience that's right now and the audience that might listen to it later.
Right, right.
And it's time travel in. It's like we're Schrodinger's podcast. Essentially, we don't know where we are.
No idea.
They said no one's having fun. Yeah, no
Aw.
fun. No, Kate Welch said no fun.
Aw.
Dang it.
Ask her what she wants us to call her.
Make the D&D Oscars. That's what Danny's telling us. We need to do that. Maybe we should do that.
She can win best costume design.
She can win that costume design. Exactly.
There's no competition.
But then she might be up against herself, against the C team's costumes. Oh, God.
Oh.
Who'd you vote for?
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
No, I think we should still do it.
All right, fine. As long as we can have an actual statue and it's like, I don't know. What should the statue be? Not the Oscar, not the golden Oscar.
No, it could be the ampersand.
Ziggy.
The ampersand.
Oh, or
Ziggy. Oh, Sugat Moy. I love that statue so much.
what category can I be in?
Why is it always about you?
Well, 'cause I want to win the statue now. Now I really want to be.
But I don't want to take it away
nominated.
from Shauna. We have to
wanna
get Virginie Robar.
I will be in the Avalon Hill
Virginie?
category.
Virginie.
Virginie.
Winner!
The Avalon Hill category.
Nobody's up against me.
The honorable mention category.
Fine. I'll take it.
Do you think you are? You might, well, I mean, you actually might win some awards, Avalon Hill, for board games coming up this year.
Betrayal at Baldur's Gate should.
People liked it.
It is a quality game. Nominated it.
Nominated. You were just happy to be nominated by yourself.
Well, I submitted it for nomination, I guess. I haven't really.
Right.
It's not chosen yet. So you guys cannot submit any board games for awards. I do not want to be in the same category as you.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
No board games.
Won't do it.
I won't submit the board game I've been designing on the side.
That is at Kickstarter right now.
Sage Advice,
That's
the
right.
board game.
That's right.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I'll publish that. I'll publish that.
You open up the box and it's just the player's handbook.
The ultimate shade being thrown. I love that.
I like it. Clever way to repackage.
Here is the rule that you're referencing, and that's all you need to know. All right, awesome. Thank you for everybody in chat. We are going to talk. What should we do? I guess I heard the click, click, click. So we're actually recording, right?
Oh.
I just like that Ryan is. You're empowered now because we had you on camera and on the mic.
You can't hide anymore, Ryan.
Yeah.
They know your
Everyone
face.
knows you. They do. They want more. They want more of you in the chat. All right, so that was a really good Laurie Chanel segment. Did you guys listen to that? Wasn't it good?
Yeah, it was good.
Do you feel like
can't believe I didn't know it.
right? All that stuff that you knew from Mordenkainen, it was amazing that Chris said everything that you already knew.
It's weird.
Didn't know I knew, but I knew it.
But now you know it.
Now I really know it.
But that's good because you should know. That's the name of the segment. So now you
No.
know.
Yeah.
Right.
You should know.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. So we are going to talk about what's in Tome of Foes. So why don't Jeremy? Why don't you give us the overview of what Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is, and then we'll follow up.
This book is all about conflicts in the D&D multiverse, and we delve into some of these great conflicts that rage across the worlds of D&D, give you some lore about those conflicts, and then the whole second half of the book is filled with monsters, many of which are related to those conflicts. So in many ways, you can think of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes as a sibling to Volo's Guide to Monsters,
Okay.
a book that, the back half was a bunch of new monsters and the front half was a lot of new story. But again, this time, the through line, rather than it being, here's an interesting collection of monsters, which is what we did with Volo's Guide, this time we specifically wanted to focus on some of these grand cosmic conflicts, the first of which that we cover in the book is the Blood War, the everlasting war that goes on between demons and devils. And this is a conflict that spans not only the outer planes, but also boils into various D&D worlds. It affects the Forgotten Realms, it affects Greyhawk, etc. And so we delve into the story of the Blood War, but also as we talk about each of the conflicts in this book, it's also a chance for us to talk about some of the non-monstrous people who are drawn into these conflicts.
Right.
So great example of this is we have a whole chapter on the schism of the drow from the other elves. But we actually in that chapter go into great depth about elves themselves. Because in monster books, we usually focus on the things you fight. And we thought if we focus on conflict, well, then it gives us a chance to also talk about the people who are often on the non-monstrous side of those conflicts. So we get to talk about not just drow, but we also talk about high elves and wood elves and Eladrin and Shatterkai and more. In the Blood War chapter, we talk about tieflings whom you might play. In the chapter that's about the conflict between dwarves and Dwergar, we not only talk about the bad guy Dwergar, but we also talk about dwarves in general, their culture, their personality, what motivates them, their gods. Even in the elf chapter, we delve into the gods of the elves. We have a chapter about Gith Yankee and Gith Sarai, and we talk about both sides of that conflict. We delve into the non-conflict that surrounds halflings and gnomes. We decided it would be fun in a book about conflict to include a whole section on these two unusual cultures that are not known to have any major cosmic conflicts, because even that in a multiverse of conflict is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
What is it about halflings and gnomes that sets them apart? So this book delves into that as well. And then, again, we have just monster after monster after monster. It's a 256-page book. At least half of that book is new monsters for DMs to use in their games. There are also various random tables to inspire players as they're making their characters, DMs as they're designing adventures. So it's a wealth of material that touches on all sorts of different topics.
Yeah. So it is player and DM.
Yes. Yeah. It definitely, like Volo's guide, is mostly geared toward dungeon masters, but players will find in this book, let's say you're playing an elf or a dwarf, you're going to find a lot of information about elven and dwarven culture that could inspire the backstory you create for your character, how you role play your character. And we also have some new playable race options in this book.
Oh.
And again, they're all thematic. They tie in with certain chapters in the book. And some of these options, people have already gotten to see drafts of in Unearthed Arcana. The versions in the book are different from what everyone saw, because as usual, we put out the Unearthed Arcana, we gathered feedback, and then we revised the design based on the feedback we received. And so some of the things that people got to see that have made it into the book is the book includes both Gith Sarai and Gith Yankee as playable races. The book includes a new take on Eladrin. Eladrin appeared as a sample in the Dungeon Master's Guide. They now appear in this book as a sort of fully fleshed out option.
Oh, okay, good, right? Because that was one of my questions: was how do Eladrin figure into that whole conflict?
So what we delve into in this book is the Eladrin relationship with their elven kin. Because Eladrin are also a type of elf. However, unlike other elves, they have really connected deeply to the realm of the Feywild, and as a result of that, you have a mix where some of them are humanoid like other elves, and so the Eladrin that you can play are humanoid, but then there are other Eladrin who have been so transformed by the realm of fairy that they have become Fey, and some of them can even then become arch-Fey, and some of them have so attracted the notice of the elf gods that those Eladrin have been invited back to Arvindor, where they dwell with the gods.
So is it a choice to be noticed and to be transformed by the Fae? Or
that would have to be a sort of thing that would play out over the course of the campaign. The option we give is to play a humanoid Eladrin.
When you say so, does that mean that the other Eladrin are not humanoids?
So it's interesting. There are then Eladrin in the monster section of the book who are Fae, because some of them might be your foes or your allies.
Got it.
We also have Shadar-kai here as a playable option, and these are people of the Shadowfell who were also originally elves and were transformed by their deep connection with the Shadowfell. In a way, you can almost think of the Shadar-kai and the Eladrin as being like mirror images of each other. The Eladrin are the vibrant, vigorous ones, and the Shadar-kai are sorrowful and gloomy, but also powerful.
So with all these descriptions, I'm thinking so much about the visuals and how the art of these creatures can be translated from the kind of descriptors that Jeremy's saying into the actual images that are created in the book themselves. So yeah, Kate, how do you take what he's saying and turn it into what people see in the book?
Well, obviously what he's saying is really inspiring. So that helps in the first place is to just really get that feeling of what it means to be an elf, and then the bookends of what elfdom could be, the Shatterkai and the Eladrin. So we redeveloped what Eladrin looked like. Richard Witters did some really great concept work where he tried to, even though they're humanoid, he tried to make them, and they still look like elves. He played with ways to make them look like the elfiest elf you've ever seen. And I think that he did a really great job on that. And then Eric Belial did the art that's in the book.
One process that people might not be aware of is the writing of the art orders and how things like that happen. Like, does Jeremy write those, or do you write those?
Well, it may be changing. Maybe Jeremy will write everything because
because of how
you have help now.
No, just because he's really good at sussing out the kernel of what makes something really interesting, and sometimes when we're writing art orders, it's like, well, I want to show this, and of course I want to show it because it's in the book. That's why I want to show it. But it's but Jeremy is able to really talk about the core of what's important in that piece. So I love getting art orders from him, but I don't always get them from him. And we have a process here where the writer or the developer of the book will put in their request for art order, and then I review it and we talk through it together so that hopefully I can get some of, if it's not already in the art order, I can get some of that kind of excitement from the person talking one-on-one. But that's usually what makes a really good art order. But I love Jeremy's art orders.
Oh, thank you.
Does everything go through Richard or Sean for concept, or is it only if you're going to reconcept something? And then how do you decide if you're going to reconcept it?
I don't know how they decide if they're going to reconcept it. If it looks dorky, then
you're
of
looking
course
at
they're
like
we
things
can
from
make
like
this
past
cooler.
editions.
Right.
Is what you're
Yeah. Or if they decide that they want to focus on a different aspect of a creature and it doesn't really fit with the way we've visually shown it previously, then they'll take that on. But there may be other reasons why. So, but everything doesn't have to be reconcepted. Do you want to talk about why you want a new look for?
Well, sometimes the look of a classic creature might change because we've delved deeper into the story of that creature. We might realize there's some aspect of it that we weren't capturing visually well in the past, and we want to punch that up. But then other times, yeah, as you said, Kate, we'll just say, hey, we love the classic look, and that's the look we're going to go with. So it really is a kind of creature by creature choice. And there were a lot of discussions, especially among Mike Merles and Matt Cernett and other members of the team early on for this book about, and also with Richard and Sean, about how are these creatures going to look, which ones need a new look, which ones can keep their classic appearance. And there are a lot of monsters in this book, so there were a lot of those conversations to have.
So the monsters that are in the book, are they ones that we've never seen before, or are they ones that are just we haven't seen in 5th edition before?
So it's a mix.
Okay.
There are some that will people will see them, and I've never seen this anywhere, and then a lot of them are from old editions that but are making their debut in 5th edition.
What are some of those, for the people out there?
Oh, for things making their debuts.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
So
Can we?
particularly because we're
Yeah.
dealing with cosmic conflict, and also we wanted this book to have some new high-level options. This book includes stats for a number of the archdevils of the 9 hells. So you can go up against some of the big bads of the multiverse.
So we saw all of the demon lords, or many of the demon lords, in Out of the Abyss.
Yes.
But now we actually have some of their equal in power or equivalent in power on the devil side of the Blood War.
Exactly, because again, since we talk about the Blood War in this book, we need to show both sides of that conflict.
Nice.
We also have like elder elementals, things like the Leviathan are in this book. Basically like city-destroying kinds of creatures that are really at kind of like Tarask level in terms of their might. There are new Yugoloths, because Yugoloths are also a part of the Blood War.
They're the middle. They're the middle. They're
Yes.
the neutral side of the fiends.
Yeah, they like to play both sides against each other. And Yugoloths also like to make bargains with many other people in the multiverse. Also, as we explored certain stories in the front part of the book, it then inspired us to want to dig deeper with some of the monsters in the back part. Great example of this is because we were exploring the story of the Shatterkai and the Shadowfell earlier in the book, then suddenly we wanted to do all these Shadowfell-themed creatures in the back part of the book. So there are actually quite a few creatures. Some of them are brand new, associated with the Shadowfell, that are in the back part of the book, which is also kind of an answer to the fact that Volo's Guide to Monsters actually had a lot of Fae in it, but not much that was related to the Shadowfell. So now this time, rather than doing a deep dive on the Feywild, instead we have quite a few creatures from the Shadowfell.
All right, that makes sense. So when it's a new creature that hasn't been, like, you don't have any background or reference material to go back to, is that exciting as an art director?
It can be. Usually if we've never seen this monster before and there's not something that's like, it's exactly like A, except it has wings or something like that. That's when Richard and Sean will come in and they'll make up a concept for it. Sometimes if they're really excited about a monster, they'll want to take it to finish, and if they just don't have time, then I send it out to other artists to use. But most of the time, we want to keep control of what that new monster looks like. We don't farm it out to someone else to decide what a new monster will be.
Oh, okay, so those are mostly in-house.
And there's a lot of back and forth with Jeremy, Mike, Perkins, putting in their two cents about what they really think it should look like, and so it's more work than just making a beautiful piece of art.
Right, and if you had to do that by teleconference or any other way, it would be much harder. But the four people you mentioned just go into a room and hash it out a lot quicker with doodles and drawings.
Yeah,
I've seen some of the shrapnels of those meetings in ones
left
that I've
on whiteboards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because one of the things we have to consider any time we're coming up with the look of a new monster or reconcepting something that's already in the game is these aren't only going to be used for Kate's artists, but they're also going to be used by partners like WizKids to make miniatures and whatnot. So we have to always think about not only what's going to serve us, but what's going to serve us in the future and our partners in the present and in the future.
Yeah.
That's nice that you think about that, too.
Oh, yeah.
If we
I don't
don't
think it's
think
just
about
nice.
it,
I think
It's good.
it's
It's
even
not
necessary.
just like what looks cool in our book. You're
Right,
actually like,
right.
that would be a cool mini.
But that's kind of different from, you think about things in 2 dimensions, and then now you have to think about them in
Yeah.
3, not just in a, academic way of like, oh, what would it be in 3, but like, what does the back of a dragonborn looks like?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the back of the elfiest elf that ever elfed.
I know. I want to see this picture now.
No, that's basically my quote
Yeah.
of the podcast.
And this, boy, does this book have some elfiness.
I love
If you
that.
like elfie elves,
I'm an elf fan.
you're going to love I am too.
And I'll be doing soon with Todd Kenrick a whole video just on some of the elf material. But this book is first time in 5th edition that we've delved into the creation story of the elves and how the drow ended up breaking off from the others, and then again the rise of the Eladrin and the rise of the Shatterkai. So there's some really great sort of D&D multiverse myth-making in this book.
Is that stuff that, like, this is canon, this already existed, you go back into, like, Matt Cernet's brain burp, 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 and, like, pull out these stories, or are you making them up, or a combination?
So this is a mix. There's a lot of classic material that we drew on. For instance, the elf pantheon goes all the way back to 1st edition D&D, and so we drew on that. And also the conflict between drow and the other elves, that also goes all the way back to 1st edition. But there's some bits of connective tissue that have never, especially since 3rd and 4th edition, tissue that we've never really developed. Here's a great example. We often will say, as we do in the Player's Handbook, elves have Fey ancestry. They were once Fey.
What does that mean?
But until Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, we haven't actually told the story about when they used to be Fey. So this book now has that story.
Oh.
And that time in their history predates the Great Schism, where the Drow followed Lolth and broke away from their kin.
Why did they do that?
Well, you'll have to see in the book.
It's still being worked on right now.
Why did they do that? Did they go to her? Did she go to them? Like, why did they do that?
She went to them. But she went to all of the elves.
Yeah.
Part of our story is actually initially almost all of the elves listened to her.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
because and now I'm this is scooping on our other videos.
That's okay.
Because Corellon, the parent of elves, in many ways is this playful, not very attentive parent. And
I know that.
I'll drink to
That's
that.
my nickname.
And-
What's her name again?
and Lolth provided direction. And
She was the leader.
and definition.
Oh. She saw an opportunity
Yes.
and she took it.
Yes.
She's like one of those bossy playground moms. Let me tell you.
You're going to do this now.
Yeah.
And then some of them were like, no, we like Corellon.
So they, toward the end, many of them had regret, and they flinched, basically, before going over the edge with her. So really, the Drow are the kind of the remnant of the rest of the elves who they decided to stay with her as she was cast out.
All right.
You know, I don't know why, but I always take the side of the female villains in D&D. I
Just in
just am
D&D?
like,
I don't know why.
well, maybe in
Yeah,
real
right.
life too.
Yeah.
I just love Lolth and Zuggy. Loved Zuggy. Tiamat. I was like, oh hell,
Yeah.
Tiamat. I love
You and
them
Joe
all.
Manganiello are like, yo,
I
Tiamat.
like strong female villains, I guess.
With 5 heads and some anthropomorphic
Yeah.
body underneath them.
I don't like spiders in real life, but I would probably have followed Lolth off that cliff.
You just like strong direction. From,
I do.
Yeah, that makes perfect
from
sense.
women. Is this like a mom issue? Do I have mommy issues?
See, this is what Dungeons and Dragons is instructive, because you start learning about yourself as you talk about the lore and how you play within it. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to add that in this book, sometimes people, it's funny, even when we did the Unearthed Arcana, where we gave some new elf options, people will ask, why are there so many kinds of elves? Well, in this book, we actually answer that question. There is a strong story reason for why. The short version of that is elves in their original Fey form were beautiful beings who could essentially assume all sorts of different forms.
Oh.
And as they fell, they sort of crystallized into these different forms. And so the elves we have now are they're like little snapshots of forms that all elves used to be able to assume. And so this book also has sea elves as a new playable option.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Sea
Yeah,
elves.
yeah,
Sea
sea elves
elves.
are in there because we name drop sea elves. Like almost any time we talk, like in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide or the Player's Handbook, we'll talk about elves and they'll offhand, and by the way, there are these elves who live under the sea. So we said, well, how about we finally give the playable version of them, since we keep basically teasing people with, there are these sea elves. So yeah, they're in this book as well.
Have
So
they been in other books?
not in 5th edition.
So
but
that
it-
must have been fun to commission, I guess.
It was a lot of fun. I think there are only 2 images of
I
them.
think right now only one is in the book.
How many of the art orders did you use as a reference to The Shape of Water? Where you're like, watch that movie.
This is before that
This
movie.
happened so. Yeah, I wish that I'd had that
As
a-
reference point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Guillermo del
beautiful.
Toro, he knew what you guys were thinking about. He's like, we got to get this dramatized as much as possible.
It's part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they have gills, right? So they're able to breathe water. Is that true?
And webby hands and feet and some.
But they can come on land too?
Yes.
That are
Yep.
okay.
They're amphibious.
So they start out as tadpoles and then they turn into to sea
Change
elves.
my character again.
You're gonna be a sea elf now. If only you had known, drunky web toes.
So they. Do you want me to spoil some more?
Yeah, we do.
Sure. I like it when I don't even have to ask the question.
This part is easy to spoil because there's more stuff people have seen in Unearthed Arcana, and that is back in October, I believe, we had a bunch of Fiendish options, which were things we were exploring for this book. And most of that material in refined form has made it into the book. So people are going to see there are new options for their tiefling characters. Because part of the story of tieflings is that they have an infernal origin. They are connected to the nine hells, and so now we've given you the option that you can decide sort of what is the infernal ancestry of your particular tiefling, and that ancestry can influence some of your racial traits. We also, for Dungeon Masters, have options for creating different infernal and abyssal cults. So in the monster manual, in the NPC appendix, we give you a generic cultist stat block and a generic cult leader stat block. Well, now in this book, we give you add-ons so that you can add special abilities specific to different archdevils and different demon lords. You can add those things on to those other stat blocks to sort of bring them to life and associate them with these particular fiendish beings. And a further neat thing is those abilities can even be applied to other stat blocks, not just the cultist and cult leader stat blocks. Initially, that's sort of how they started in our design, and then we're like, wow, but we just make it so that almost anyone can have these things added. But to clarify, because I know some people listening would think, wait, can player characters have these abilities? They have been designed for non-player characters and for monsters.
I see.
If a DM wanted to give them to player characters, of course, that is an option, but that was not how they were designed.
Got it. All right, and that's kind of cool because, in the past, I've always thought tieflings were, one specific devil had created them due to agreement with, some humankind. But now you're saying it could be any one of the archdukes of, or not even an archduke. It could be any devil that is able to create a tiefling option.
So what we clarify in Tome of Foes is that the tiefling in the monster manual is sort of the most common, and they are the tieflings associated with Asmodeus.
Right.
And so now we give you ways to make tieflings associated with like Dispater, Mephistopheles, and others.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Now you know what your next character
My
is going
next
to
character is totally going to be one that's like, different. But then you said there's abyssal ones as well that have to do with the
not for tieflings, because
Okay.
the cults, we have abyssal cults,
Okay.
but not tieflings, because tieflings are just associated with the nine hells.
All right, so that's the next book. It's creating this new race of like demonic humanoids. I think.
Yeah, it would be an interesting thing to explore.
You heard it here first.
Now,
folks.
what we do explore in this book, having to do with both the Nine Hells and the Abyss, is we explore also Cambion variants. So the Monster Manual has one type of Cambion to use, and in this book we say, well, here's how you can make Cambions associated with different fiendish powers. And again, gives you new little abilities that you can apply to the Cambion stat block in the Monster Manual.
Excellent. Great. So I'm sure we have lots of great art of tieflings and how they look.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
One horn or not,
Well, I was going to say, with all these different ways of making tieflings, your horns could be practically anything, right?
Right.
I love that. I want my horn to be like, unicornish, turned to the side.
You be you.
That'd be me. It's more like a hook you can use to get people off stage.
Maybe that's another race, though, that we can explore, is unicorn folk.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Oh,
gosh,
my God.
You're like, Jeremy, get on
Let's do it.
Unicorn centaur folk. They're right. They're like, yes.
Yeah.
I might torment Mike with that. I beat him in the Great Turtle War and got turtles made, so maybe I can also get.
You just have to put up a very scientific poll
Yes.
and get more followers. That's the only way to do it.
I can get you a bunch of 4-year-old girls that'll say yes to the unicorn people.
Hey, many
My little
of us
unicorn
boys and men will
Exactly.
also want it.
True.
Yes.
Quinn would be all in support of that.
Yep.
So where did the idea of this, does this come from, a book like this? Do you think, like, it would be really cool to write a book about all these different conflicts? Let's riff off that and then it becomes Mordenkainen's Guide to Foes? Or is it like, you know what, we haven't talked about Mordenkainen, let's do something with him. He's the star of this book, and here's what he would talk about.
So it started as exploring the conflicts and the participants in those conflicts, because again, we not only wanted to talk about the bad guys, but we also wanted a way to talk more about like elves and dwarves and halflings and gnomes and whatnot. And then because all of our books, even our rule books, like this one or Xanathar's Guide to Everything, we always like there to be some kind of story hook, some way the book is anchored in the various D&D worlds. Yeah. And we'd been wanting for a while to feature Mordenkainen. I mean, he has his cameo in The Curse of Strahd. By now, I think it's safe to spoil that. But yeah,
was
anyone
that like a seed? Like you put him in there knowing he was going to get his own book one
well,
day?
Well, because we've known all along that Mordenkainen would get featured because he's such a big deal in the D&D multiverse. And specifically, he's a big deal because he's known to be a planar traveler. And so as we explored this book and thought, who would be basically a good narrator? Or, if the kind of the story of this book actually is that his notes were stolen by Shemeska the Marauder, who is actually a Planescape character. She stole his notes, and then those notes have been sort of cobbled together, and just like in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, where there are little comments by Xanathar throughout the book, this book has comments from Mordenkainen sprinkled throughout, and Mordenkainen is pretty sassy, it turns out.
Did you write a lot of those?
Yeah.
No, I wrote one of them in the book, and it's actually very sassy. But it turns out Matt Cernat also is very good at sass.
Yes.
And Matt actually Matt has a lot of experience writing as Mordenkainen, because Matt wrote all the Mordenkainen quotes in the 4th edition book, Mordenkainen's Magnificent Emporium.
Really?
Yeah, and that's a book Matt and I worked on together, and it's funny, he has been now for years writing in the voice of Mordenkainen.
That's amazing. That's pretty cool.
I like it. I like that he's a little sassy.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't talked a lot about the Gith and their conflict and what they're all about, as well as the dwarves and the Duergar, because I know we have some dwarf fans out there as well.
Yes.
But yeah, what's the quick on the Gith? Like, so yeah, visually, how do Gith how do they look different? The Gith Sarai and the Gith Yankee.
Well, they don't look that different. Right. So one of the things when we reimagine a race or a monster, we have to have a really good reason for doing it, because what it also means is we can't use any old pickup art. We can't use any art that was done for Dragon Magazine. We can't use anything from any previous adventures or OP event art, things that people probably would never have seen, or at least the majority of people, but we just can't use it anymore. So that is another thing that we consider when we're reconcepting.
Right. So they look very similar.
They look very similar. Mm-hmm. I think their costuming is maybe a little bit different, but the actual creature themselves are pretty, overripe banana.
That is a good description of the Gith. Yeah. But yeah, the book delves into the conflict between the Gith, following their being oppressed by mind flayers, since that darkness in their past sort of has influenced their entire history. And as I mentioned before, you can now play Gith Sarai or Gith Yankee. And I have to say, Kate, the art in that chapter is really spectacular.
I know which one you're thinking of too.
Well, several of them, like the Gith Yankee city painting. Oh my God, with the dead god there.
I love. Did you guys see City of God? Not City of God.
City of Dead God.
Coco. I'm thinking about the movie Coco, but the City of the Dead in Coco.
Right.
It was the recent Pixar movie, but I kind of imagine it as being like that was like an other planar D&D location to me. So when you immediately said that, I'm like, oh God, I wonder if it looks like that.
Yeah. And again, a great painting of Vlaakith, the Lich Queen.
Who's that?
She is the leader of the Gith Yankee. Look, you're learning all sorts of things.
I know, right? I'm like
the
writing.
lore you should know.
I'm getting notes for many more segments to come.
I think you're going to enjoy reading this book.
Yeah.
It has a lot of really good stories.
So she's the Lich Queen. Is she the one that leads the revolt against the Mind Flayers, the Illithids?
She is one of the great leaders. Now the leader of the Gith Yankee, and whereas the Giths Arai, they broke off, and
So much breaking off.
I
and,
know.
like,
Yeah.
come together. They're all just taking off.
Yeah.
That's the halfling and the gnome section.
Oh,
It'll be
that's
about
right.
coming
Yes.
together, drink
Yep.
some food,
Yep.
make some inventions.
Yep.
Drink some food.
Drink some food.
That's what they
Is that what
do.
I said?
Yeah, you heard it here first. Halflings and gnomes are all about smoothies.
Yes. They love their Soylent. They just drink it down.
It's an entire chapter about juice bars.
Wait, no, you think
intestinal
you think
tract
they're
in
nice,
the
but they're
bottom.
actually eating people. Like,
Oh,
those
God.
smoothies are all made from
Yeah.
people.
Yes.
That is the dark secret revealed in this book.
They've all been cannibals this whole time. Dark Sun had it right. They're so nice all along.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they revolt against the Illithid, and she's the one, if I'm remembering correctly, that is like, all right, that means now that we're basically free, let's make sure we kill all Illithid everywhere.
Oh, Gith Yankee, hate them, hate
Yeah.
them, hate the Mind Flayers.
So that goes into hate, which leads to all the things that Yoda talked about it leading to.
Yes, and mind flayers, it turns out, have caused a whole lot of trauma in the D&D multiverse because, it has caused also trauma for various dwarves and many other creatures in various places. Because mind flayers, not only do they oppress various peoples, but also perform horrific experiments on them, partly because mind flayers, as we described in Volo's Guide to Monsters, are so alien.
Yeah.
I sometimes imagine that basically if they met us humans or the other humanoids of the D&D multiverse, we would almost be like insects to them, where like our just behavior would be kind of inexplicable, and they would just like get out their scalpels and like, what makes them tick? I mean, that's just sort of how they're again horrific. Curious.
You say horrific, I say curious.
Well, horrific when they then want to gobble up your brain.
So are you saying that probably we won't be getting a version of the Mind Flayers?
No.
We're not going to be able to play Mind Flayers ever?
That is not likely.
Like ever?
Yeah.
Not likely.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, not likely.
I think we
Right,
talked about
Tito?
that when we were talking about Volos. We were like, no, there's no
can't-
redeemed
you just
can't
do
Illithid.
it.
There's
Right.
no Drist of the Illithids.
Yes. Yeah. Here's our friendly brain eater.
Yeah.
Could be regretful.
He's like, I just ate the brains of rats. That's okay. I'm cool with it.
Vegetarian
Right.
Mind
A
Flayer.
vegetarian mind flayer. I only eat happy thoughts.
Yeah.
No, none of those things exist.
Yeah. So on the dwarf side, we delve into the conflict between dwarves and Dwergar in particular.
I like that you're delving. Just wanna make
Yes,
sure
yes.
that was noted.
It included with alliteration.
Yes.
And in the monster section, we have new Dwergar options, and Dwergar have developed various psionic abilities. In the monster manual, they have their invisibility and their enlarge. In this book, we actually show Dwergar who have other special abilities. And then going back to our peaceful halflings and gnomes, even the monster section has, in particular, some gnome-themed material. We have some clockwork creatures that are specifically created by gnomes, and that's also some more great art, actually. I love the clockworks.
I love making them too.
Yeah.
I don't make them. I
You
commission them to
you
other
direct
people.
them.
But I love getting them in and like, could this really work?
Let's make it. And see.
Yeah.
What are some of the? What do they look like? What are some of the? What are some art that you've? I want more detail.
So one of them looks like it looks like this little robot guy with two little shields, because it's sort of like this little defender
Ew.
guy. But they're made by gnomes, so they're not. Most of the constructs in the game, like golems and whatnot, are really big, but these are made by gnomes, so they're more like dwarf size.
That's cool.
And so
That's
how
really
you
cute.
can describe some of the other ones.
Oh, I was just going to talk about the little frog.
There's a little frog.
Oh, the frog in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Isn't he in the gnome section?
Oh,
that
maybe he
chapter?
reappears in there.
It's a new one.
Yeah.
It's a new
is there a
one.
new
There's
one?
a new frog? A clockwork frog?
I don't know what I'm talking
No,
about.
yes, you're right. No, because I'm confused because we love mechanical frogs so much. We've done it multiple times in 5th edition.
There's like 5 art orders for more mechanical frogs out there.
Mechanical frogs.
They're also amphibious. They start as mechanical tadpoles and they go to get full
Can
life
we
size.
play a mechanical frog?
No.
No.
I'd love for Shelley here. Everything is basically, can I play it?
But wouldn't it be great if your dungeon master was like, and then you find this and gives you a mechanical frog
Or a unicorn?
or a unicorn?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would go
Yeah.
for that. I think the grung fans out there would go crazy if there was
Chris
like a
Lindsay.
mechanical grung.
Yeah.
What? Next time.
Even the halfling and gnome part of the book also includes some like table of inspiration for creating crazy gnome inventions, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Just
Yeah.
the names of them?
No, and also descriptions of the kinds of wacky things they might do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I kind of like like a band. Like, oh, here's your indie pop band, and you have like 3 tables to draw.
Mechanical
yeah,
Frog would be
yeah.
a great name for your indie rock band.
Ding, 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 ding. I think I could do it.
Mechanical
That was my banjo playing, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you didn't
Love
know.
that indie.
It's bluegrass. It's totally indie. Where's Pelham? It's Pelham. It's bluegrass. It's totally. So that's all right. So yeah, Duergar. See, I always pronounce it Duergar. Is that wrong?
I do too.
Is
I
that-
like the way he pronounces it, but
Dwer-
Say it again.
Dwergar.
I say Dwergar,
Dwergar.
but these are all made up words anyway.
So I'm glad I got an ally though.
Say
So
it.
it's Duergar.
Well, it helps me when I have to spell it when I'm looking through the database.
Oh, yes.
So-
If you're
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're saying it phonetically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that makes it so much
Dwergar.
easier.
Dwergar.
But they have like a gray pallor to them, right?
They do. They have. I don't know why creatures that are under the ground have white hair, but they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a D&D thing, I guess.
In one of the paintings, I particularly like the Dwergar, the woman with the mohawk.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like a white mohawk.
Yeah. She looks
Nice.
tough.
That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play as her.
Can we play as her?
Yes, in fact, you can, because we have given the information on playing Dwergar.
Oh, there we go.
So there you go. So you can play.
I'm gonna have like 15 D&D
You
games
play her.
going.
Just so you can make the
play all these
characters.
characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what D&D Beyond is great for. You can just make
I
the
know,
characters
keep
and
making 'em.
have them on call.
Who wrote this? Did you write this? Did you have freelancers write it?
So this book is the work of a team. So that team includes
right.
myself, Mike, Matt Cernett, Adam Lee, Robert Schwab, Steve Winter, Kim Mohan,
Wow.
Chris
Takes
Perkins,
a village.
Ben Petrosor,
Really?
and
Did Ben write stuff too?
so Ben helped us develop the stat blocks because
Yes.
a lot of game mechanics in this book, and so
Yeah.
the writing includes not only all the story material, but also all the stat blocks.
That's
super
pretty
cool.
cool.
Awesome. And there's 2 covers, right? There's the
Yes.
standard cover, which you can get everywhere. That'll be out May 29th. And then the alternate cover will be available in game stores, limited edition. And that is also super cool. A little bit different than our other alternate covers. Those have been designed by Hydro 74, and I believe this one is designed by
Vance
Van-
Kelly.
That's right. Vance
Sorry.
Kelly.
I'm
No, you had it.
stepping over you.
You had it in the top of your head. So that's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that style of the alternate cover. We'll
Yeah,
get.
he did a great job, and I haven't seen what the special printing effects will be on this one, but I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, I think there'll be some shininess.
Shiny.
Yeah, something shiny, something deep and dark, something for everyone.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something borrowed, something blue.
That's what I want.
I should have gone there, but
Super cool. Well, thank you guys so much for talking to us about everything that's in there. I feel like there's more to delve into, and we will, over the next couple of months, be going into more of the lore behind all of this, as well as more of the mechanics. I know you mentioned that there's a lot of high-level challenges and things. So if players have gotten up to 10th, 11th, 12th, 20th level, there's actually some stuff in here for them, which there hasn't been that much in the Monster Manual and the other material that has been out there that challenged them. So it's cool that was the focus for a lot of this too, was to
terrifying things that will destroy them.
Exactly.
But there are some lower level things as well.
Exactly. Something for everybody.
Yep.
I know and Shelley, you mentioned there's players, lots of player material in there.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. We got to talk about it for over the next couple of months. Kate, where can people find out more about what do you do? And maybe actually, because I know you're not necessarily on the social medias, but one thing you can talk about is Art Drop, because I'm always looking for more people to get their art in front of you art directors.
Yes, Art Drop at wizards.com. If you are an artist and you want us to see your portfolio, attach 3 to 5 examples of what you do, gear it towards D&D and or Magic, because both D&D and Magic art directors look through, and we're always looking for new talent.
How many pieces of art do you think are in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes?
Gosh, I don't know. We keep putting more in.
Yeah.
Well, it's like 40 or 60 or
more like 80, 90, 100? You think more than 100?
Yeah, because
I feel like a typical book has
because
more
remember,
than-
there's, let's see, there are over 130 pages of just monsters.
Oh, right, and there's an image for each monster.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Upwards of 100.
Yeah, and
That's a lot of
I
art.
work so hard.
How many artists is that? 'Cause some of them will contribute more than one piece.
Yes,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
how many artists do you typically work with on one book?
Well, I usually try to keep each artist to doing 5 or fewer pieces. Some people are real workhorses, and they're like, I can do 20, and I'm like, 7. Because that's a lot. That's a lot of work in one person's hands, and
If they screw up.
if they
Or
screw
just-
up or they win the lottery and they're
Yeah.
like, I don't need to do art anymore. And then I'm like, I have to commission 20
21
pieces. So what would that be? You're asking me to do math in front of everybody.
I'm an art director, damn it. So like 30 or 40 artists is what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
That's a lot of artists.
Exactly.
And
So
everybody's on their own schedule. No, they
Oh.
pretty much stay on my schedule. But
I hope so.
yeah,
Are you managing all of it? So you're managing all of that, all of those pieces
yes,
come through you, and you have to follow up with everyone.
yeah. But that's why it's helpful to have one person doing 4 or 5 pieces, because then it's only one email for 4 or
Right,
5
that's
pieces instead of 4 or 5 individual emails.
Yes.
Which that
that gets hard.
we
That gets
manage
totally
it.
hard.
We manage it.
But I mean, there's always a need for more quality artists.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
that Art Drop is the best way, you think, for people to get your name out there?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Awesome.
I love
Cool.
it.
Well, Jeremy, how can people get in touch with you about art that they can send into artdrop@wizards.com?
That's exactly where they should send art. And then if they want to reach me, are curious about D&D rules or really anything else D&D related, I can be reached on Twitter. That's Jeremy E. Crawford.
That's right. That's where you do the rulings for Sage Advice. It's amazing to me that you have the time to do that in the midst of planning for this book. Do you do that more as a safety valve for yourself, or like, I'm getting too busy, do some rulings, or how do you balance
sometimes
that?
if I do it during the workday, sometimes it's kind of a mental break,
Yeah.
because so often I'm like really deep into, crafting text or a new rule, and it's a nice break to see, what's the community asking about, and also I just enjoy that interaction with the community. But also sometimes I answer the questions in the evenings or on the weekend. But as Kate knows, I am really bad about respecting my own free time. So I do a lot of work when I'm supposedly resting.
You're like, doing D&D rulings isn't work. It's fun. I get to.
At least you can have some bourbon while you're doing it.
Yes, if it's at home.
Start getting a little
Yes.
fuzzier.
Yes.
The rules get fuzzier, where the responses get sassier. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, there have been a few times where I've answered rule questions on a Friday evening where my answers might have been a little bourbon influenced. And sometimes those are
Yeah.
tweets I'm like, I need to expand on that answer a little bit, or maybe delete that tweet and replace it.
Yeah.
Replace it a little better.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, of course, we also do our awesome discussions of some of these topics that get into the things behind the
Sage
rulings for
advice.
our Sage Advice segment. So I'm looking forward to those. I think I got one next week for us.
Yes.
We'll record it next week here for dissemination on the podcast.
Are there? You think that there's other Jeremy Crawfords on Twitter that just get random questions?
Oh,
And they're
you know, I've never checked. Maybe so.
the hell?
Right.
A dwargy guard?
Yeah.
What?
Why is this person asking me about Twin Spell?
And other people, the guy who wants to know about Twin Spell is like, why won't he write me back? He said he would
on.
respond to all of our tweets. I don't know.
Yeah, the person who doesn't know, he's like, this is really creepy. This is like twinning of spells. Oh, God. That's crazy. Well, awesome. Again, thank you guys for coming and talking to us about it. I know taking out of the time that is necessary to get it out there. The actual file is not out, right? So that's going to be, what, 2 weeks' time from now?
Next week is when it goes to the printer.
Next week. That's insane.
We're
So
not supposed to talk to you until then.
except for in the confines of this podcast.
Except,
Right.
I know, I couldn't believe he was
We got
actually
them.
allowed.
Got them in here.
Woo.
Awesome. Shelley, what can you point people to that they would love to talk to you about? Perhaps some Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, or
We can always talk about that. But we just saw a new cover. Did you guys see the cover for Betrayal Legacy?
I haven't seen it.
no?
It's hanging on Shauna's wall.
Oh.
We got to go check it out. Yes.
So beautiful. Please judge games by their cover. Because you will love this game. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And then, oh, no, we didn't talk about that yet. Never mind.
What is Betrayal Legacy for those of you who are
Betrayal
not
Legacy
following?
is the board game based on Betrayal at House on the Hill. And it's a legacy game, which means that the game will change. It'll become customized to your gaming experience. You will do things like put stickers over cards or on tiles or tear things up, and your game is going to end up being very different than your game and that your game, because you're going to make choices that influence the game, but just your game. And then you're left with a customized board game. Unlike other legacy games, you can continue to play this one
Oh, that's
over
good.
and over and
Oh,
over
I
and
didn't know
over
that.
again. Yeah. So there will still be like almost like 30 or more haunts that you haven't even seen.
That only open up after you've
Yeah.
finished?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then you just keep playing them on your customized game. So like you'll find some tiles throughout the legacy campaign that maybe you didn't find. So if you went and played Greg's version of the game, you'd be like, where did you get this room? That is so weird. And if you don't have to be familiar with House on the Hill to enjoy this one. But if you do, then you're going to appreciate a lot of the things that you discover. Like if you've ever wondered, like, why is this room collapsed? Maybe you'll find out.
Oh, that's cool. I like
love
that.
that.
It's like
I
this
love
ongoing story of what's going on in the mansion
Yeah,
is now
yeah.
all coming to fruition.
Yeah.
I saw some of the sculpts of the
The mini.
minis on,
Beautiful.
in just an impromptu meeting you were having in the D&D office. It got me
Yep.
very excited.
Don't say
I'm like,
anything.
this is a real thing. Oh. Well, they are exactly like this, and let me describe it to you. There's all I can say is
Maybe
teddy
be
bear. There was a
careful.
teddy bear.
Do you need,
Talking
do you
about
need me to
them.
hit the button?
Hit the button.
I cut him off.
Hit the button.
Oh my gosh,
There's,
this coffee was too much.
It's hard to talk about like the components of the game because you can't give things away.
It's true.
Because a lot of it is stuff you discover along the way.
No
there
spoilers.
are components.
Components exist.
There are components in the
Where
game.
can people find out more about what you and
should
what you're doing?
Follow Avalon Hill at Avalon Hill 2, the number 2 on Twitter. Or you can follow me at Shelly Moo. I'll tell you everything.
Awesome.
I too tend to drink on Friday nights. So
So that's the time. Time it perfectly for
I
when
do
to
not
ask
use
Shelly about
Twitter.
components.
I do not use social media in the evenings, on weekends.
That's important.
On purpose.
Shelly, the brand manager, told Shelly the game component.
Shut
viewer-
it down!
What are you doing? Nothing. I'm fine.
I thought we announced this. We have not announced this yet.
It sounds like a haunt. That's going to have to be
I
nice.
know, right? Twin spell.
You can follow me. I'm at Greg Tito. I'm also on the Instagram. You can follow me at Greg_Tito there. If you want to find out about more things about Tome of Foes, it is all over the website, DungeonsandDragons.com. We have tons of information up there about it, and more will come out over the next couple months. Again, we mentioned Todd doing interviews on D&D and Beyond, and we'll be doing more segments about it here in the lore, as well as, well, probably not sage advice, but we'll cover it as much as we can here on the podcast going forward. So thank you guys for listening, and we're excited about Tome of Foes. Again, the release date for that is May 29th, and it will be out on the 18th in game stores. So make sure you get your limited copy there. All right, I think that's it, everybody. Right?
Bye, everyone.
Very excited.
Bye. Rocks fall, everyone dies. Goodbye.
Bye.
I forgot to warn you guys.